Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Yetis Without Borders podcast. My name's Tim. I am the fill-in introductory artist today. Patrick is currently using the lavatory, so he is unable to do said intro. The loo, if you will. To my left, we've got Zach filling in on the left side of the couch.
Hello.
Anything new in your world?
Just build monsters, bringing them back to life. I'm Victor Frankenstein. That's
a terrible segue to the discussion we're going to have.
I was like, what's in my brain?
I'm put on the spot.
I'm writing, stories with a bunch of friends as a dare, and I'm accidentally going to write Frankenstein because I'm Mary Shelley.
Perfect. That's all we're going to write. So today we are in fact going to be talking about yet another Frankenstein film. I think they've done approximately 8,000 of them thus far.
There's got to be a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, and we'd like to welcome Patrick. He's back.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to be talking about Victor Frankenstein today. It stars James McAvoy. Some other films you might know him in are Victor Frankenstein and also Victor Frankenstein. And also it stars Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe. I don't know who else is in the movie because I will be the first person to suggest that I did not watch this movie. It's a podcast about movie watching, and I could not bring myself to watch it. Reason being is I am tired of the Frankenstein story, and I was kind of hoping there would be a bit of comedy in this movie, but from what I read of it, kind of felt that it kind of seemed like it wasn't really going that way. So I'll throw in a few quips here and then, talk about stereotypes of the movies in general, and I'm going to hand it off now. So, Patrick, go to town.
Third person in this movie is Andrew Scott. He plays Moriarty. In Sherlock.
Yeah.
He's a detective in this movie. Contrary to what you read about the movie, having not watched it, there's a significant amount of comedy. There's a lot of funny parts in this.
It's kind of a buddy cop thing going on between Victor and Igor.
Yeah,
That's where most of the comedy is coming from.
Yeah, I think Daniel Radcliffe and James McAvoy were a pretty good team. I thought they had a lot of fun together. And
maybe this can be a review where I'm actually listening to your review as it's going on. Would we say, actually, this is kind of an interesting angle. Would you say that, we're talking laugh out loud, Lethal Weapon kind of buddy comedy? Or,
Did you laugh out loud at Lethal Weapon? There was, nothing funny in that movie. That movie's fucking serious as shit.
Oh, I laughed a few times.
Dude, you got problems.
Whatever.
Holy crap.
But
there's definitely some pretty good funny parts. I mean, there's nothing Super Troopers funny, but there's definitely some parts where you're like, oh man, that's awesome. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought there was a lot of funny parts in it, and a lot of hearty chuckles. Not laugh necessarily, but because it's based on a very serious Mary Shelley novel that Igor wasn't even a part of, it was really, I thought they did it pretty well, and I thought there were some good funny parts.
Yeah, it's more like antics, I would say. They get up to some hijinks. There never really any jokes in the movie necessarily, but it was sort of a playful. Yeah, there were playful action sequences.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The big semi-joke part that I'm thinking of is when they're drawing the big Vitruvian Man style Frankenstein in chalk on the ground, and
they're both drunk.
They're super drunk, and James McAvoy says, "And he's gonna have a flat head," and Daniel Radcliffe's like, "Why?" "Because I want him to." And I laughed for a good couple seconds.
I thought that was funny too.
That's ridiculous. I don't even understand why that's there, but it's a thing that happens now. So I loved the opening of this movie. I thought all of the drawings of the bones and the inner workings of the humans as they were showing the humans was done really well. Kind of like all the deaths in Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
I thought they looked kind of cool, but they were all old school chalk drawings of the bones and clavicles and stuff.
And did this movie actually get a theatrical release?
It did. Yeah.
It was 2015.
It barely made any money.
Yeah,
it's a big pig bomb.
Yeah, because it came out after Dracula Untold.
It was the same year, yeah.
Yeah, but it came because Dracula Untold came out earlier in the year.
Yeah,
and then this one came out, and I think people realized that after watching I, Frankenstein and Dracula Untold, that this one probably wasn't going to be as good.
I'll look it up. Is I, Frankenstein 2014 or 2015? It might have been the same.
I believe it was 2020.
Was that the Steve Jobs biography?
No. Pretty close, though.
Okay.
I, Frankenstein's Aaron Eckhart.
I know. Okay. I was just
I, Frankenstein was 2014, but still, two pretty close to have two movies with Frankenstein in the title.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the movie's biggest problems is it has a very bad title. I think Victor Frankenstein is a very boring title. It makes it seem like a more straightforward Frankenstein story.
Okay, so let me put this to you guys then. I'm going to be the outlier on this. Would you guys have enjoyed the movie more if they removed all of the Frankenstein references and just made it a generic monster creation as opposed to Frankenstein? Would it have made it better?
I think the way they kind of play with it is fun. Like, it's sort of fun to be like, oh, this is where he gets this idea. And, like, I think if they had, maybe waited a little longer, like, if they hadn't made the monster at the end of this movie, like, it might have been better. Like, I would have been, like, if this movie was like, oh, we need to spend the whole movie trying to get the brain that we're gonna, and then, like, not that this movie would have gotten a sequel necessarily, but... maybe by the third movie they put together the monster.
Yeah, like,
it would have been nice if we were just slowly working our way there.
Yeah, in the first movie with, like, the lightning strike that's failed or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, they sort of do. Like, obviously, the monster doesn't survive the end of the movie. But, like, the way they play with, like, the hunch, which obviously is not from the book, because Igor's not in the book. But, But the way they play with that and, like, the Frankenstein name, they even do kind of a young Frankenstein joke, which is Frankenstein.
So you obviously didn't watch the movie. Daniel Radcliffe plays Igor, Hunchback. I found it, like, I wrote it down multiple times that him walking around on all fours as a hunchback must have been fucking painful.
He was very, like, physically, like, he got into it. He looked like he lived that,
Yeah, he was, like, because he was walking around on all fours because he was full hunchback, so he was doing this the entire time, and he was, like, walking around like a savage creature.
And just in reference, because this is not a visual thing, when you say walking around like this, like a dog.
He said like a savage creature.
I did say that.
Yeah, but then you did a physical body motion that you can't translate to sound. Okay.
They could hear the vibrations
in
the air.
Yeah,
perfect.
A little scurry action.
It was, I guess it's kind of like Gollum. It's basically what Andy said.
He's Gollum-esque, yes.
Yeah. So Igor plays... he's a clown in a circus, and he's also the physician for the circus, which is very confusing to me, because there's a lot of reasons. One, how did he learn to read?
Yeah, I know, he just, and like, where did he get all those books? Like, he just found them?
Yeah, and then he basically teaches himself all medicine.
How to be a great doctor, too.
Yeah, like, a phenomenal doctor.
So we're assuming that traveling from town to town in the circus, the Scholastic Book Fair also follows the circus, and he's able to get all the books.
I don't think they explained it, because he just has the books.
Yeah, he just has the books and is the doctor.
Which he just chooses to do, apparently. Like,
yeah.
They don't really seem to make it's not like they would be like, well, you're the hunchback, so you're also the doctor.
Yeah. They also have... he doesn't have a name as the clown. He is given the name Igor later in the movie. And if he's the doctor for this circus, I would think that they would give him a little bit more respect.
That's what I mean. Like, why? He's keeping you guys alive.
He's literally saving your life.
It certainly is not like a circus where they're all a family or whatever. Like, they would treat him. Why would he be the doctor for these people if they'll hate him?
Yeah. At this point in time, enter Victor Frankenstein, played by James McAvoy, who I think is phenomenal. I don't think I've seen him in a movie that I didn't like him in.
He was so manic. Like, he felt like how, like, if Frankenstein had been a real guy, where he was like, he's brilliant, but he's clearly a little
he's
off his
Professor
rocker.
Farnsworth.
Like, he just felt like bipolar. It was really good.
It was done really well. He, quote-unquote, saves Daniel Radcliffe from the circus, which in the movie he clearly does save him, but they make it really seem like it's a prison, and I imagine someone could just, like, walk out of the circus. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like they kind of, like, treated him as if they owned him, I guess. So, I don't know. If nothing else, Vic Frankenstein was maybe the first person to be like, you can just leave. Like, you don't... Yeah. They don't own you.
Yeah, which... I mean, as far as I know, they could just leave, right? They got a row.
Yeah, certainly it seemed like the acrobat lady who... She falls, and then that's how Frankenstein and Igor really meet, is Frankenstein tries to come over and help, and Igor is actually able to help her because he does this, like, he, like... pops her shoulder so it stops pushing on her.
Yeah, her clavicle was broken and it was pushing on her ribs. Pushing on her lungs. So he, like, broke it back into place type thing and she could breathe.
And that's how he impresses Victor with his medical. I do like that it is like Victor, even though he, maybe feels sympathetic towards Igor, he also just needs an assistant. Like there is like a selfishness to wanting to bring him home with him.
Okay, so if I can interject for a second, talk about James McAvoy. Let's. You said there's not a film you don't like him in.
There's not. I don't believe that there's a film I've seen him in that I didn't like him in.
Wanted.
I liked him in it.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the movie itself, actually. It was really crazy.
I'm genuinely surprised by that, because it seems like a movie you wouldn't like. I
watched it for the first time 4 months ago, and it was... I hate Angelina Jolie. I always have. I can't help it. But it was ridiculous.
Look, as long as you went into it knowing that this is going to be a dumb movie, it's enjoyable as hell.
And Chris Pratt's in it, right?
Yeah, he's the guy he smashes with the keyboard.
Yeah, he's just like his best friend. Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
I watched. I watched another. I shouldn't say watch because I stopped about 15 minutes in. He was in I think it's Danny Boyle film called Filth.
That's the one where he's a cop, right?
Yeah, a crooked cop.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
With Jamie Bell.
I just did not jive with it.
Love that movie.
That movie, I will say, the movie sort of presents itself as being something it's not. As you get deeper in, like it seems like it's going to be like a House of Cards. Like he's talking to the camera and we're going along with his dirty deeds, and it really gets very, very dark and like introspective and like. Yeah. He certainly is not what he first seems, where he's just this dirty cop who doesn't care. Like he's got a complicated backstory,
and it's based off a book as well.
I like.
Yeah, I know that much.
Because I don't. Maybe I sort of had the first thing initially where I was like, I don't know that I'm gonna like this. This kind of seems like a movie that's like, oh, I'm so smart and we're being dark and edgy, but it really didn't end up being what I thought it was. No,
it's a straightforward depressing movie.
It's very depressing.
It gets fucked up, and Jamie Bell's in it, and he's really good too.
He was great. Yeah.
And James McAvoy still did a really good job in it. And I was going to talk about how I thought Victor Frankenstein in the dark periods in this was kind of like James McAvoy from Filth.
Yeah, it was where he was playing mental illness, in a very
really well.
kind of a realistic way.
So the big summary of Filth is he's got PTSD because when he was younger he killed his brother, and he's trying to fix his life, but he's realizing that he's spiraling himself further and further.
Okay.
And it's like, watch it again.
I got about 15 into it, and just didn't rub me the right way.
No, and you have to be in the mood to watch this movie because it will fuck you up.
I probably was not in the mood.
It was the first movie I watched of 2015, the last of 2014 being I, Frankenstein. And it was like the worst way to end a year, but a pretty awesome way to begin a year.
I, Frankenstein was one of the first movies I watched in 2015. I remember too, and I
didn't
even really watch it. I tuned out after the first half hour, and then the movie just kept going. I was like, oh, it's still going, I guess.
I remember New Year's Eve at like 11:45. I was like, I'm sick, I'm not going out. I'm going to watch a movie. And I put on I, Frankenstein, and I'm pretty sure it made me worse. I'm pretty sure I got worse.
Like this year?
Why?
I think if I can remember 2014 accurately,
all I remember is I, Frankenstein.
It shadowed the whole year.
Yeah, basically.
Now, it might have come out earlier, and I'll end up using the Google machine to figure this out. But as an aside, I'm trying to not take us away from Victor Frankenstein, but I'm going to.
Yeah, success so far.
Yeah, totally. There was a movie that starred Emil Hirsch, and it was a Russian movie.
Yeah, Lights Out. No.
Is it called The Darkest Hours?
Yeah, I own it.
Is that the name of it?
Darkest Hour.
They
invisible alien monsters that they have to shoot with electricity.
Yeah,
Darkest Hour. Might be 2013.
The only reason why I bring that up is because I feel like it hasn't gotten enough traction.
It didn't get any.
I've spoken to a lot of people and they've never heard of it. I've watched it a couple times now, and I feel like the invisible monsters was probably due to budget restraints. But let me tell you, they dealt with it about as professionally as you could get in a movie.
Interesting.
Have you seen it?
No, that kind of came out during the glut of found footage movies, I feel like. And
it wasn't really any found footage at all.
It's not a found footage movie whatsoever.
Really? That's what I thought it was.
Oh, no, not at all.
I own it somewhere. Okay. I'll find it.
Patrick's looking for it in his thousands of movies, but we'll get it to Zach. And I want us to put a pin in this. Let's do a podcast about that movie.
Okay. I could do that movie. It's right there. Keep carrying on.
Is it The Darkest Hours? Am I right?
The Darkest Hour.
The Darkest Hour. Okay.
89 minutes. Gold.
Yeah. So I've got it in my hand here. It came out in 2011. Okay.
Oh, okay. Wow. You'd still be talking to Dad at that point in time.
Yeah, it's got Emil Hirsch, Olivia Thirlby,
Yeah,
Max
from
Minghella,
Yes.
and Rachel Taylor.
Judge Anderson.
I can't speak highly
Super
enough
fun
about
movie.
this movie,
Two
considering...
for 10?
Yeah, 2 for 10 at HMV.
Great.
HMV.ca, where the music begins. I assume that's their slogan. So I'm heading into
Begins
Zach.
with an H.
We're gonna talk about that.
I received the DVD.
Hey, perfect. Wow, that was so literal. That was amazing. I'm going to be leaving this podcast right away because I've totally shit the bed by not watching the movie. But I will watch the movie now, and I will end up talking about it in a later podcast.
That's all we can ask for.
So all I'm going to do is I'm gonna put in a couple cliffhangers in the future. Please look forward to both a John Cusack, Grosse Point Blank podcast.
I think we could do a John Cusack trilogy.
Probably.
I think we could each
Grosse
pick
Point
one.
Blank, High Fidelity.
Well, we each pick one. Come on, man. You don't get to Bogart it.
I want to Bogart it.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Don't Humphrey it.
And we'll talk about. I feel like that's gonna be a
That's
thing.
way better than
Now, would you say don't Humphrey it or don't do Humphrey?
I don't know. I feel like if you say don't Humphrey it, you'll be like, oh, don't Bogart it.
You'll get it. Okay.
That's
Okay.
pretty great. I like that a lot.
Okay, so we're gonna do some John Cusack stuff coming up, and this Darkest Hour movie, we'll definitely do it. I'm gonna bid you all adieu. I'm going to attempt to make some forward momentum in my life, and enjoy talking about Victor Frankenstein.
Will do.
Absolutely. You want to give your little tagline at the end of that?
No, it's fine.
Okay, perfect.
No, I'm done with that.
Awesome.
It's about time.
So we're like 6 minutes into the movie now, and 20 minutes into the podcast. The movie, like, story-wise, the movie doesn't really give too much. I mean, everyone knows everything that happens in it.
It's very much an origin story.
Yeah.
Like, it's really playing with, like...
Key if you want. Probably be easier on you. Yeah, it was really basic. I mean, it's Frankenstein. You know, like, if you've seen one or read the book, you're probably going to see all the other ones. The only one that's different, as far as I could tell, was Van Helsing, where Frankenstein was supposed to be the creature that... I don't even want to get into that movie. That movie was fucking ridiculous. I should watch that again.
It's on TV all the time.
It is on TV all the time, yeah. I think I probably own it, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, okay. It's just on a hook at the front door. Yeah, I like how you're just not talking anymore.
Everybody, Tim was still here. We were trying to communicate on paper. I was trying to make a professional exit. It totally failed.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm genuinely leaving now. I won't Humphrey the podcast anymore.
There you go.
Sweet.
Perfect.
Boom. Okay, see you guys.
Later. So I do have notes written down because I did watch the movie yesterday.
I watched it like 2 weeks ago, so...
Yeah, I wanted to...
it's coming back to me. I'm like, alright, there was the thing with the monkey, and...
Yeah, okay, if we're getting into the monkey, I thought that monkey looked good. I thought, I mean, for CGI, considering that they were animating a monkey that was animated using, like, other parts, I thought that was done really, really well.
Yeah.
The way that I said it was really convoluted, but, I mean, it's an animated monkey that was animated in the movie and for the movie, but it was animated using other animal parts. So it's super complicated, but I thought, like, it looked kind of vicious.
Oh yeah, it looked scary. Like,
Yeah.
that was like, it was a good action scene.
Yeah, they didn't really discuss as to why it was inherently evil, per se, because why did it just immediately want to kill everyone?
Yeah.
That was a little sketchy to me.
That's just
but-
what always happens.
Yeah, I mean, it just is what it is.
I guess it was supposed to be like when Victor later looks into his monster's eyes and he's like, oh, it isn't alive. Like,
Yeah.
that's what they didn't. They weren't really bringing things to life. They were just, like, putting electricity into a dead body, and then he was going berserk.
Yeah. I enjoy movies like this just because I love timepieces.
Yeah.
Like, and I really love the old style of dress, and every time I watch this or Penny Dreadful or anything like that, I just want to buy a suit and wear it all the time. Because
Looks so dapper. Yeah.
they look just so badass. And, you know, the big poofy tie I'm probably not for, but everything else, you know, like, it was done really, really well. And I thought all of the scenery that they had, and they didn't have an abundance, but they showed that it was just like England in the 1900s was dirty.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like not a clean place, and that's a thing that I think a lot of movies gloss over nowadays.
It really was a movie with not a lot of locations either. It's like there's the circus, and then they're place, and then the university, and then just kind of like London streets, and then finally the castle.
Yeah, and
I guess like Victor's house is pretty big, and like we spent time in the basement.
Yeah, which I'm glad that they like. I did like the setup for making Frankenstein's monster, because the way that they had him drawn, he was the size of 2 full human beings. Like, he was enormous, and I really liked that. They realized that it wouldn't be able to be done in a house.
Yeah,
I thought that was really awesome. It also kind of explains how Frankenstein just magically has a fucking castle.
yeah, I liked that it was. They explained the castle. I liked how, like, when they were designing the monster, they had kind of a reason for why he had to be so big. Like, it was so he could hold all the electricity, and that was why they're like, we'll give him a second heart so he can pump all this blood, and we'll give him extra lungs. Like, that part was really fun. That was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, and like the weird, I described it as the parts montage of like James McAvoy like putting this up, and Daniel Radcliffe has to figure out how to make it work and how to do everything with it. I thought that was done really, really well, and it was. I don't know if they used real body parts. I don't know if they could by humane standards or anything like that. But all of the blood and everything looked super realistic, and I thought that like it was just enough of a close up with showing Daniel Radcliffe in the background that it looked creepy.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Yeah,
but it really never feels like a horror movie at the same time. Like, it just feels like it should. It feels like Frankenstein. Where you're like, this is sort of unsettling.
Yeah. And I don't even, like, up until when they're at the very end, I wouldn't even say that it is a horror movie.
No.
I don't...
It's kind of like an action movie set to... I don't even know what genre it would be. I think that's maybe one of the problems with it, is, like, how do you even describe this movie? It's, like, just a Victor Frankenstein origin story, kind of.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's like...
But not really, even. Like, he's already into his bringing things to life, like, before the movie starts.
Yeah, they're in, like... It's like a comedy, drama...
It's like Igor's origin story.
Yeah. And I had heard that they didn't name it Igor because there's that John Cusack cartoon that came out like 2 years prior or something, which was probably much more than 2, but that was a thing that they didn't want to do. Which makes sense. Don't want to be that guy. So after Victor Frankenstein saves him, you find out the grossest scene in the movie, that Igor is not a hunchback, and he has a giant boil, I believe, on his back, or lesion of some sort.
Yeah, it's a big pus-filled something.
Yeah, where Victor Frankenstein takes a giant syringe, jabs it in his back, and then siphons it out and drains all of the pus from Daniel Radcliffe's back. You had said that it was... They did that on purpose to make
apparently him and either McAvoy or Radcliffe, I think both of them came up with the idea of him actually siphoning him out and like taking some of the pus in his mouth and spitting it out, which was great. It's definitely one of the more memorable parts of the movie.
It really, really was. And there's like at the end of it, you can see him spit again just because he's like, and then they just kind of move on. It was
weird that like medical genius Igor hadn't figured that out about himself. Like, he hadn't looked up hunchbacks once.
Yeah, I could talk.
That's the one book he couldn't get.
Basically, just too high of a shelf. It was super like I could talk about Igor for the entire podcast because, I mean, shouldn't have been able to read. I imagine at that point in time, if he's with the circus, he's probably shouldn't be able to read. I don't mean that to sound ignorant or anything like that, but at that point in time with the traveling circus, you're led to believe that he would not be putting a lot of effort into education.
It seems like it would be tough to learn how to read on your own without someone teaching you, and I don't understand who was supposed to have taught him in the context.
Yeah, and then on top of that, to learn to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And then to learn to improvise the way that he does in the movie only a couple times, but Victor Frankenstein says that he has the best working hands he's ever seen or something like that.
Yeah.
It just seems really, really difficult to me that it would be based around him as a hunchback. Not that being a hunchback makes a difference, but it just really... His entire backstory seems really, really not thought out in the least.
It seems like they cut out a lot of stuff with the circus at the start. That's how it feels to me. Because you're right, like, we're just told all these things about Igor. Like, we don't really see how he became a doctor. We just are told that he is the doctor. And we're told that he sort of has this relationship with the acrobat girl, but we don't really see them interact until later in the movie.
Yeah, you see him looking at her when she's doing her acrobat like her swinging stuff, and then that's really.
And then he saves her life, but she's unconscious. And obviously she would be grateful for that, but we never really see them. Like it would have made sense if she was the one who taught him how to read, maybe, or
and he's really I guess in the scene where he saves her life, she starts breathing and is immediately coherent again.
Yeah, she's fine.
Yeah, she's unconscious and unable to breathe for probably close to a minute, and then just boom, back in. You saved me. I guess I don't know. I'm not an expert on such things, but I know if you don't have oxygen in your body and can't move it, it doesn't work very well.
I know, it's she's just immediately back. That's all. He's that good of a doctor.
Well,
best working hands he's ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. We get to a weird action chase scene where Daniel Radcliffe and James McAvoy escape the circus because the circus is holding Daniel Radcliffe prison, which
they
was
literally lock him in a cage. Yeah,
like a lion's cage, which is ridiculous to me.
Which I don't think they usually do, but it's because he
was trying to.
He was trying to leave, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he slept in that train car with the other guy, because that's where all the drawings and stuff were.
Yeah. Because Victor was like, "You should come with me."
Yeah. And it was, that chase scene was really weird to me. At any point in time, Frankenstein probably could have just been to give you $10.
I know, he had money, what is it? Yeah.
It was weird to me, but it was an interesting chase scene. It was done kind of well, and it showed the circus of the time and stuff, and it was kind of cool. Escape the circus, and they go back to Frankenstein's house, where you find out again that he's not a hunchback, and it's just I imagine that the pus was so heavy that it just weighed his body down, and that's why he was walking like that. It just curved his spine.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. I don't know. Maybe it was sore too. I guess you're right. I guess it just made it hard for him to stand up straight because it was such a big bulb.
Yeah,
it would have been I think you would have been able to tell that you could pop it.
Yeah. It was.
You really touched it once,
yeah. And if it was if it's hard pus in there,
yeah,
that'd be fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know. He does that.
Yeah,
goes out through a tube and it looks pretty liquidy, but
yeah. And then to fix his back, James McAvoy, I want to say breaks his back or
that's right. He gives him
again?
the brace too. I guess that's it. He had just because he'd had the boil for so long.
Yeah,
he had kind of grown accustomed to standing like that.
Yeah, walking like a monkey, basically. From that point, we see they touch base slightly with how James McAvoy is trying to reanimate human bodies. They show a scene where he had made some sort of gel and put 2 eyeballs in it, and was he electrifies them and makes it so that the eyeballs are receptive towards light, which I thought that scene was done pretty good too.
I like that. That was really cool. Yeah,
it was done kind of cool, and I like how the eyes move at different speeds and in different directions. And Daniel Radcliffe even points out, again because he's the world's best doctor, that he connected the nerve endings improperly on the back of the eyeball or something like that, and it just made it credited Daniel Radcliffe more. And then also credited the entire movie, that there was a lot of things that were going on that Frankenstein couldn't do, but Igor could. And I thought that was done pretty well.
Yeah, they sort of complemented each other. Where Victor was the big idea guy, mm-hmm. and then Igor was the details. He's the one who really he knows the textbook front and back.
Yeah,
and he really knows his stuff. Whereas Victor's got the big ideas, the new stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that was pretty sweet. After that scene, what happens?
Well, we meet the cop, the bad guy. Yeah.
And he's, the good guy.
Yeah, exactly. And so Victor has been stealing dead animals from the London Zoo.
That's what it was.
And I believe that's also why he went to the circus initially, is that he was going to steal see if they had dead animals they could sell them or something.
Yeah, because he has a canvas bag with a lion's paw.
Yeah, so he's sort of Victor's, or not Victor specifically, but someone stealing body parts is already on this cop's radar, mm-hmm. and he sort of gets tipped off. we see a scene where we see that he's like a very good detective, which I liked as well. I always like a good someone just like going over the evidence, like a good Sherlock Holmes scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's sort of an interesting twist with him where he's very, very religious. So he's sort of the whole idea of, I mean, obviously he doesn't know at this point that things are being resurrected, but once he does find out, he kind of like takes it very, very personal.
Yeah, which I thought was, I mean, at the time, I thought it was like it would make sense. I thought it was done really well because religion was still such a massive part, and science and technology were, but not nearly as prevalent as they are now. I liked Andrew Scott in this movie. I thought he did really well.
I thought he was good, yeah.
I mean, I enjoy him in. He was Inspector as well.
He was C, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Don't they call him cunt at the end of the movie?
That's what it is. Yeah. That was ridiculous. And then he was in Sherlock as Moriarty, and great in that. Have you seen those yet?
Yeah, I've only seen the first season, but he's like at the very end of the first season.
Yeah. He was really good, and he was a really nice straight face comparatively to Daniel Radcliffe, who was probably the middle of the road, and then James McAvoy, who was probably the as Frankenstein, like the deranged, crazy.
He's
guy.
the overacting one, yeah. Like not that he's really overacting, but he's the manic one. He's the
yeah, and he plays the role to a T. I mean, I can't speak highly enough of any of the three actors. I thought they all did phenomenally. So from that scene, we've got.
Then they're pretty much like they're building the monkey thing. That's what he's only working on animals. Like he has those little human parts, but he's trying to put together like a living monkey, basically.
Yeah.
And then he puts on the presentation at the college. I think it's pretty much next.
I think so. Oh, I guess we didn't discuss how he gets the name Igor.
Oh yeah.
So Igor Strassman, who was the original assistant of James McAvoy.
I think they were just roommates. I don't think he was even his assistant.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
He was a drug addict and he was gone for a couple weeks. So if anyone asked, Daniel Radcliffe was to tell people that he is Igor Strassman, and if anyone has any questions, I assume they gloss over that because they don't really talk about it for most of the movie.
Yeah, it never comes up. Like the only person we ever meet who knows Igor is like Frankenstein's dad, and he doesn't seem to notice that it's an entirely different person.
Yeah, which is weird.
It's very, very strange. And then also at this point we learn that the acrobat girl, whose name escapes me,
Lorelai.
She has also basically been pulled out of the circus by a wealthy benefactor.
Yeah.
And she's gotten, I think she's married or she's dating this guy, but...
No, the dude's gay.
Yes, we find out that she's actually a beard, so...
Yeah.
So there's no, she can run around with Radcliffe all she wants. The guy doesn't care. It's just as long as she appears to be his lover.
Yeah.
Which seems like a good gig for her, and it's weird because again, I never really we never meet that guy. We never.
Yeah, you hear her really laugh. That's really it.
Yeah, she's just rich now, and she's not in the circus, and it doesn't really make a difference. I don't know. It's very strange.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
I think obviously it's supposed to be compared to Igor's situation where the same thing happened with Victor, but I just don't really understand why. Like, why are they contrasting each other? Like, what message is that showing?
Yeah, it was really weird. And then they meet each other again. Lorelai and Igor meet up again, and, she doesn't recognize him because he's not a hunchback anymore, and he has gone through the amazing change of shaving.
Yeah, I know. He cleaned up nice.
Yeah, it looks good. He reintroduces himself, but says he has a name now. To which, again, I'm just going to go back to him as a clown in the circus. How do you not have a name?
How did she not have a name for him?
Yeah.
How did they not be like, I'm going to call you whatever?
Yeah, and
because she seems very friendly to him afterwards. And maybe he was just really shy. Okay, we don't really see the circus. It's what is their relationship really? Did they know each other, or were they just
yeah,
were they just work friends?
And even then, right? From the way that he painted the picture of himself at the beginning was he didn't know that they were being mean to him because he never knew kindness was the thing that he says. And I was like, okay, well then how is this girl just does she just immediately fall in love because he saves her life? Is it a weird Stockholm syndrome thing that she's got going on? Maybe.
I guess it seems like she just immediately falls for him.
Yeah, which
after not even like seeming to have talked to him in the circus. Like I just don't understand. It seems like they should have been friends in the circus, and they weren't really, from what I could tell.
Yeah, they didn't really touch on that too much, but they did. I mean, they didn't really touch on things that happened before, the rescue from the circus much at all.
No.
Which is fair. I mean, that'd be a whole different movie.
We kind of get into Victor's backstory, like later on in the movie.
Yeah.
We meet his dad, and then we learn something about his brother that he.
Henry
Frankenstein.
Yeah. So I guess we move past that to Frankenstein and Igor going to the college, conference room H. I remember that because they said it multiple, 14 times.
Oh, right, because he's just walking down the hall. Conference room H?
Yeah.
McAvoy's so good. He's just this showman, mad scientist. Like, I'd go see his show.
Absolutely.
I'd go to Hall H.
Absolutely. He's really great. So they get in there and they show this visually animated dead animal that they're trying to reanimate in the movie, and they're using electricity, and they've got the whole big machine that generates electricity to try and bring back this monkey. Fails the first time, people leave. Fails the second time, people leave. One guy starts to make fun of him and call him a buffoon and say that he's an idiot and all of these things. They put it to full power, and the machine works and brings the monkey back to life. At which point in time, the monkey just kind of goes apeshit.
Goes on a rampage, yeah.
Poor choice of words on mine, but he just starts to want to kill everything. Or, I mean, maybe not even necessarily kill everything, but he's a monkey that is in the world that he would have never seen before. So it probably could be just very foreign to him. I'm not positive. I don't know how a monkey would react.
Yeah, it seemed like it was just fight or flight, right? Like the monkey didn't really have any thoughts. I mean, I'm sort of putting stuff onto the movie that they never explained, but he was just only violent. Like there was they were never going to be able to calm him down. He was just a berserker monkey that they built.
Yeah, basically. And they catch the monkey, and Daniel Radcliffe almost dies. He almost falls down a stairwell. From that point, Victor Frankenstein comes in and saves him, and then they, reluctantly have to kill the monkey again, I guess. They take the monkey away, and enter Andrew Scott again, who uses his amazing deductive reasoning to figure everything out that happened. And that really brings us up to the beginning of where Frankenstein starts to create the monster.
Yeah, the guy who's making fun of them in the show, the only one who sticks around and actually sees the monkey get animated, is this rich. I think he's part of a criminal family, is what it seems like.
Yeah,
they're one of the criminal families in London. And he decides I'm going to start paying for this. Yeah. You've got something really great here. I'll be your financial backer. So they start getting money.
Yeah.
And then Frankenstein's dad shows up, who is what's his name in Game of Thrones? He's the Tyrell dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was also in that the Dracula movie, Dracula Untold.
Oh, also didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know that he was originally in, I want to say it's Dune. There's a movie made in 2003, and it was Children of Dune. Oh. He also plays James McAvoy's dad. That was the only thing that I saw.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, he's Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones.
That's kind of cool.
He's got free time now. He's not. I guess no Game of Thrones spoilers.
Oh, yeah, he dies, right? He gets shot in the toilet?
He does.
Right. And he comes in and basically says that Victor is a shame on the family and an embarrassment, and the university wants to kick him out.
I think they called him about the crazy monkey thing. Which I don't think anyone believes. I think they just think he trashed the room. I don't think people think the monkey trashed the room.
Probably not.
People just think that, it's crazy Victor doing his thing again.
Yeah.
And he also, I think, has not been going to his classes, or he hasn't been doing his study, because he's still a student, and he just says, no, that stuff's not important. What I'm doing is important.
Yeah. So I would imagine that he would be a going to doctor school, medical school, or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know if they ever really say what he was actually supposed to be studying.
Yeah, because, I mean, he's Dr. Frankenstein, but he's just a scientist?
Yeah.
I don't know what he is. Interesting. I'll probably have to look that up later. Then we get into the semi-discussion about the Frankenstein monster, at which point in time they don't really say that it's a monster, but it's just going to be a creation, and how it has to be so gigantic so that, because it needs other body parts or other organs to facilitate all of the electricity coursing through its body.
Yeah, I think they say something about that the electricity was too much for the monkey, and it would have died within like 10 minutes even if they hadn't killed it, because it just like got fried right off the bat by all that electricity.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, we need to make him bigger so he'll be able to handle the charge.
But then they amplified the charge a whole bunch. Weird. But then, you know, we see the giant drawings that they have and all of the things that are going on with the bodies. And it was done pretty well. I thought that they managed to make it be creepy but not uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Which I was a huge fan of, because like they still kind of made it fun and like buddy cop-ish with Radcliffe and McAvoy, which I thought was great. Where are we after that?
So they kind of have a fight, right? Like, I don't know if this is before or after the cop shows up, but Daniel Radcliffe doesn't want them to make the monster anymore. Like, I think even him drawing the thing is sort of them making up, because he says, like, this didn't work. Like, we didn't bring a monkey to life. Like, we just made, like, this isn't... They want to bring something to life that can, like, reason. Like, they want to do what they do in Frankenstein, the book, where they make, like, a rational thinking person, whereas Radcliffe sees the monkey and is like, we didn't do that. Like, well, that's not what we're doing. We're making just, you know, these horrible abominations. We shouldn't do this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think before they have a big falling out, the cop shows up at the house, right?
Yeah, it's when Victor Frankenstein was starting to create Prometheus. Is the name of the creature?
Yeah, which is like the subtitle of the original novel, right?
Yeah.
It's like Frankenstein, the modern story of a modern day Prometheus or something. It's a cute little reference there.
So they had that, and Andrew Scott as Detective Constable Turpin, I think his name was.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Judge Turpin is from Sweeney Todd, too, so doesn't mean it's not the same. But.
Well, that's fair. He is trying to break down the door to catch Victor Frankenstein doing not even necessarily things that are against the law. Well, I guess he would have.
He would, but like he doesn't have a warrant when he's breaking into this. He's become crazy at this point. Like he's convinced. He knows. He's figured it all out, and he's like really obsessed with catching Frankenstein now. Yeah, absolutely. Which is it's done pretty well. I think it's done really, really well. I enjoy that scene a whole bunch. He breaks in, or no, Radcliffe comes back, and he goes in through the back door, which I guess they did. That's what it is. They've had the fight at this point, and he comes in. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, as they're kind of making up, but not really making up, the detective comes in and catches him and points a gun at Frankenstein and says, like, you have to stop this, it's an abomination to God. Frankenstein then distracts him and attacks him and basically throws him into a conduit and electrocutes him to the point of his hand falls off?
I think his hand also gets crushed. Like I think they put it in like a wheel that's spinning.
Okay, I must not admit.
I couldn't figure out later on in the movie he's wearing an eye patch for like a scene or two.
I think the electricity fried his eyeball.
But then it seemed like he wasn't. I guess he did still have it later. Maybe I just didn't see the electricity like hit his eye or whatever. But I was like, did I miss a scene or he like?
Yeah, because I remember that scene, but I don't remember the hand crushing scene. So
I feel like he gets his hand caught in like a spinning wheel that gets like crushed.
Yeah, I don't know.
And also somehow at some point in the scene it comes out like Victor has the original Igor's body frozen in the basement, like in a big block of ice.
Right.
And he says that he didn't kill Igor, but that Igor had just overdosed, and
Yeah.
Victor found him. So
Yeah. And then
we're
he
never
said-
given reason to believe that that's not true in the movie.
No. We do find out that he digs out his eyeballs, and those are the eyeballs that.
Yeah, those are the
from
eyes.
before.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was super creepy, and seeing the frozen body of Igor was.
That was a fun reveal, and it was
Yeah.
sort of like, from the bat, you could kind of tell that something was up, where he wasn't really telling the truth about Igor Straussman.
Yeah, I thought that was done really well. Well, pretty well. So the detective gets electrocuted. Victor Frankenstein and Igor run away. Igor wants to stop. He wants to put all stop on it and not do it ever again because they're going to go to jail, and he can't go with him because he believes that Frankenstein killed Igor, to which Frankenstein says he doesn't, but he still doesn't want to go.
Yeah, I think he also, he has the conversation with Lorelei where he's like, what he's doing is wrong, and then she's like, well, if you're really his friend, then you'll tell him that, he doesn't own you. You owe him, to tell him that he's doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's partially, he's just I don't want to be party to making this monster,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So they're at the rich criminal guy's house, and then, so Victor is leaving to go to the castle, which I think is, it's the criminal kid's family's castle, right?
Yeah, in Scotland, I believe. And I don't know. I don't know how long it would take a coach to get from Scotland to London. I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But I imagine from a coach it'd probably be some time. But whatever. It's neither here nor there. Radcliffe decides to not go. Frankenstein decides to go, and then the bad guy, the money behind it, basically decides that Igor is now expendable and goes to kill him. But rather than just kill him and throw him off a bridge into the river, he just puts a bag over his head. And
They just throw him off the river. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why didn't you snap his neck and then throw him off the river?
Yeah, anything at that point.
Why didn't you even knock him unconscious and then throw him off the river?
Yeah, would have been great.
He just so casually, as soon as Victor is out of the room and it's clear that Igor is not going with him, he's
Yeah.
like, well, I guess I'm gonna kill you then. He
Yeah,
just very casually
60 seconds.
walks up behind him
I
and
don't
is
need
like,
you anymore.
and it takes Igor a long time to react. I feel like are you not listening to what he's saying?
Yeah, no, not.
He's just saying out loud, I'm gonna kill you. And
Yeah,
then I'm gonna kill Victor. and
100%.
I'm gonna rule the world.
Yeah, yeah, that's weird. Igor obviously survives. He escapes to Lorelei's gay husband's mansion or whatever it is, his house. And then we find out the backstory of Victor Frankenstein's his brother Henry. He ends up being his older brother, but that doesn't actually make a difference. And Igor chooses to go after Victor to try and stop him in there and therefore save his life. I remember there's a scene where Lorelei is talking to him and says, "It's been weeks since you moved." And he's just getting up walking around there's no, it's not an issue in the least. And I was confused about that, because...
He just has hunchback healing power. He's so used to being,
Maybe?
all fucked up that he just recovered real easy.
Alright, it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's sort of supposed to be like you were saying, the distance to the castle. Maybe that's their way of justifying a little bit as saying Igor's been out of commission for quite a while.
I guess, yeah, it makes sense. Except for the next scene, they're riding horses up to the castle itself.
They go there too, without too much trouble.
And then she can't go on because there's men that are guarding the path, apparently, that are stopping anyone from getting in there. So Igor goes a back way around and climbs up through the bluffs into the castle, and we see the inner workings of, I guess now it would be Castle Frankenstein at this point in time.
Yeah.
Where they have Prometheus all tied up and ready to be brought back to life. And the guy that plays Frankenstein is also enormous.
He's giant.
Yeah, he was apparently the same guy that was the strong man at the beginning of the movie in the circus.
Oh,
yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, and it's nice that they gave a guy another role. And he was just a huge dude. His scenes were, I mean, I guess he didn't really have a role, but he fit the part pretty well, I suppose. Igor goes into the castle, talks to Frankenstein to try and stop him from doing it because he's going to die after, and Frankenstein says, I don't care, this is going to, like, cement me into the world of science forever. Which, as we know, it does not, especially the fictional world or whatever, but he's just so delusional and has his reasons that he doesn't care. Next scene, we find out that the reasons are when he was younger, he and his older brother went out into a storm and his older brother froze to death, I believe.
Yeah, I think he kind of froze to death keeping Victor alive.
Yeah, Tauntaun style.
Yeah,
something.
exactly. That's what the cat and the mouse in that sad Christmas song. Have you heard it?
Yeah, that's Christmas as fuck. And Victor feels the need that, or he says that since he took life, he now needs to create life to reset the balance.
Yeah.
Which was really, I don't know if it was necessary. Like, I think
it's a very like on the nose, like one for one. Yeah.
Part of me was hoping that he was going to go full villain and say, "I killed him."
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, this is what it is.
It did seem like it was going to be more where it's like, you're just blaming yourself for something that happened as a kid.
Yeah.
It was obviously part of, like, when we meet his dad is obviously not the nicest guy, so we can maybe infer a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Kind of go back to your point about remembering science. One of the things I liked about the movie is they have a nice little, like, meta moment where Igor says to Frankenstein, like, if you did do this, people will only remember the monster, not the man, so kind of referencing the whole people thinking that Frankenstein means the monster when it actually means Victor. I thought that was clever. That seemed like that probably survived from, because Max Landis wrote this. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He did. Yeah. He wrote Chronicle. He's sort of like he does more like artsy nerd stuff. I would generally say like high concept stuff. So, and he said his script got chopped up like a fair amount, like not a ton, but some stuff were changed. So it seemed like maybe that idea was focused on a little more. That seems like a very Max Landis idea to me to be like going so meta with the whole popular conception of Frankenstein.
Yeah, that it makes sense, and I mean, I haven't seen an abundance of Max Landis's work, but I know that he's done a couple like avant-garde almost.
Or like not like already because he wrote American Ultra, but even that like I feel like he's trying to be unique at least, like whether or not it's successful. Like he certainly is trying new things. And I feel like you can feel that in this movie as well. Like even though it is just the Frankenstein story, it is trying to be something new. Like
absolutely,
like we were having trouble even classifying it, and like that's probably a good thing, really. Like
it seems like what he would do.
Yeah,
which is awesome. I thought that. I mean, I thought he succeeded for the most part in this, as in most of them. Like Chronicle it's a good movie.
Yeah,
like it threw me off a little bit. American Ultra, I was not a big fan.
I have not watched American Ultra.
Not a huge fan of it. I don't necessarily like the girl.
Oh, Kristen Stewart.
That's the one. But I really enjoy American James McAvoy.
Oh, Eisenberg.
That's the one.
I love Eisenberg.
I think that he did. I think he's really good. So then, it's this, obviously we're almost at the end of the movie, but the story kind of writes itself where
at this point it's pretty much what you think it's going to be. This is the Frankenstein part. Yeah,
but it's a lot less of the classic Frankenstein and more of just like a mindless beast Frankenstein.
Yeah, again, it doesn't really, this is just a monster they kill, and it's actually kind of a boring monster design after the cool... monkey. Like, it would have been cool if this was more of like a proto-Frankenstein. Yeah. Maybe he was a little more like patched together. Like, I would have liked that, I think. Yeah. It's just like, this is just Frankenstein. Like, we've seen this a million times.
Yeah, and I'm always amazed that they find all the exact same tones of skin and the exact same, everything's the same. Like, I think it would have been more badass if it was like full patchwork.
That's what, or like, give him like a gorilla arm, like, that'd be so cool.
Yeah,
like,
that'd be ridiculous and terrifying.
Yeah.
And then, he obviously doesn't escape the castle and kill the little girl, to which I don't even think he does kill the little girl. No, I don't remember.
I think he does. He does kill some people in the book.
I don't remember if
And he kills, like, Frankenstein's wife, too, and...
Yeah. But I don't remember if he kills the little girl specifically. The one that gives him the flower. I'm not sure about that.
I think he doesn't. I think people just think he's going to.
Yeah, I think that they allude to it. Kind of like...
it's been a long time.
Because
I don't think the Henry thing happens in the book at all, right? Because isn't Frankenstein adopted in the book, and like he's in love with his adopted sister?
Yes, and apparently I was reading it. Originally, his name was supposed to be Henry and not Victor, and that's why they did it.
Interesting.
Yeah. As far as I've been led to believe, I had read somewhere that the Garland Green character from Con Air, the Steve Buscemi one, was kind of based off of Frankenstein, like when he goes to meet that little girl and they play with dolls.
Oh,
where he's supposed to, like, you think he's going to kill her, but he doesn't, type thing.
That's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because he's, the monster. So I haven't read the book in a long ass time, and I might have only read it one time.
I think I've only read like the Wishbone version.
Yeah, that's fair. But again, it's a pretty straightforward thing that happens. Everyone kind of dies except for Igor and Frankenstein, and they kill the monster, but the monster's not actually dead because it has 2 hearts, so they have to kill it again. That was probably the worst part of the movie to me.
I feel like once the monkey thing happens, the movie starts to go... Like it gets progressively more boring from that point.
Yeah, it goes from like being... I don't want to say erratic, but from hitting different points to just being very, very linear.
Yeah, it is just a Frankenstein story. Whereas at the start, you're like, oh, this is kind of a fresh new take on these characters in this situation, and I was sort of surprised there wasn't more grave robbing. Like, I feel like when you think of Igor and Victor, like, that's... Igor especially, I feel like he's grave robber. Like, that's what you think of.
Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, I understand that you don't want the heroes of your movie to be grave robbers, but they also obviously are, so I don't know, why not just go for it?
Yeah, or at least they could have said that, like, the other Igor was a grave robber type thing. Like,
yeah, that would have been fun, yeah.
I
would have liked, I don't know, I would have liked more weird creatures, too, I feel like.
I think if he had come in and there was, like, it was The Simpsons, I think, where, the Halloween special, where the bad Bart sews a mouse to a bird, whatever.
Yeah, exactly, like, that would have been fun. I mean, that's what you were saying, like the bit where we're in Victor's workshop and we see the eyes and we see...
Yeah.
Like, that was fun. It would have been fun to see more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it would have been kind of cool. It was... not a scientist either. It was not the best thing for him to go, like, writing it down, monkey, human. I would think that there would be, like, probably a lot of
I know, like,
test
why did
processes.
he jump right to person,
Yeah.
Monkey didn't even work. Like, imagine you get monkey right.
Yeah.
and then do it.
Yeah. So they kill Frankenstein's monster, and I think puncturing a single heart of it would probably still kill him.
You would think. It wasn't the whole point that they needed 2 hearts to power the whole... If you'd have a stroke, you would think if he...
I would think so, right? But I guess the detective Andrew Scott's character comes back, and he's also
like leading
dies.
a mob at this point, I think, right? Like,
no, he's on his own.
Is he?
Yeah, he's definitely on his own because he sneaks in with no one noticing him and goes to kill Frankenstein or kill Victor Frankenstein. But then they see Prometheus, shoots him a couple times, doesn't have any bullets left, and Prometheus hits him, and he seemingly flies, I want to say 15 and a half feet into like the middle of the room and hits the harness where Frankenstein was being electrocuted and gets electrocuted and dies.
I'll be honest, I was like not really paying attention by this point. Apparently, like I must have tuned out for the finale because I don't really remember. I was just like CG action.
It was done really, really poorly because it wasn't. I mean, if you think of the first action scene of the movie where they're escaping from the circus, then you think of this one. This one's a lot more boring and depressing.
That's what it isn't like. I mean, I guess it's nice. It's not like they fight a giant CG monster at the end, but it's also like for the final action scene in a movie, like pretty tame. Like they just fight one dude.
Yeah.
And no castle burns down. Like
it's 2 guys versus 1 guy, and the one guy's gigantic and doesn't do anything. Like he doesn't. I mean, you technically sort of see him kill other people, but not really.
And isn't like a villain. Like it's not his fault he came to life. Like, and the people that brought him to life are our heroes. So
and the other ones are all dead because for whatever reasons. So this part. This was I watched this before I watched Die Another Day, and I was like really focused on this because I knew for Die Another Day I was gonna phase out a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, whatever. Like I'm gonna focus on this and nothing else. So I shut my phone off and I was just watching this, and the action scene was done really really poorly. And then after they kill Frankenstein monster, Lorelai comes in, but they still don't really talk about how she shouldn't have necessarily come in because she wasn't going to get in before. So she gets past all of the guards of the castle and just walks in. And
yeah, maybe they just came running. I don't know.
Maybe?
She does just kind of waltz in.
Yeah. Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein is gone. She and Igor, live happily ever after.
I guess, yeah, they just both go live with that gay guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or he just has an apartment down the street and then they
maybe
make it work.
Yeah, they don't really discuss that too much, but they talk about Victor Frankenstein is writing him a letter, and it's people aren't going to remember, or they're not even going to know the things that we did, but we'll know, and I'm taking notes so that the next time we do it, it'll be much more of a success.
Next time, baby.
Yeah, and that's basically how the movie ends. And part of me wants there to be a sequel. I know that there's not going to be, but part of me wants there to be a sequel solely for the fact that, what tweaks is he going to make on the creature?
Yeah, why does he still want to do it?
Yeah,
it seemed like once he looked in the creature's eyes and he saw that it wasn't alive, it didn't have a soul in quotation marks, it wasn't a reasoning man.
Yeah.
That he shouldn't want to do it anymore, but I guess he was just back to the drawing board.
Yeah, which is really weird. I mean, if anything, they could tie it into a movie with sorcery, and they could say, this is how you trap a soul and put the soul into the body.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That's what, they're doing the Universal Monsters universe. I think that's the only interesting version of a Frankenstein story to me, or like Van Helsing, where it's Frankenstein with other things. I think just by itself, it's not that exciting.
No.
What's the series where it's about Frankenstein? It's the Canon or the Hammer Frankenstein films where the series actually follows Dr. Frankenstein and not the monster.
Oh,
so
cool.
That to me sounds a little more interesting.
Yeah, because he probably does a lot of other things.
I'm totally. It's Christopher Lee, I think, is Dr. Frankenstein.
Oh, so it's
movies.
Old then.
Yeah, it's it was coming out at the same time as his Dracula series.
Oh, so the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, I could be wrong that it's Christopher Lee, but I think it is.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
Because Christopher Lee is, I believe, the only actor in history to play Wolfman, Dracula, and Frankenstein.
Oh, I think you might be right.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Not positive though. So yeah, I didn't necessarily think that it was really I enjoyed the movie a whole bunch, but when it gets to the point of we're creating the Frankenstein monster, it's really just the same.
Yeah.
And that was unfortunate to me because I wanted some sort of twist. I love the idea of a Universal Monsters universe where they have Wolfman and the Mummy and things like that, because they add it's such an awesome set of monsters that they have, like Swamp Thing and Dracula and Frankenstein, that they can make it so much, they can make it so gigantic and it would work out so well. But having just Frankenstein or just the Swamp Thing for me as well just doesn't do it.
Yeah, it's boring.
Yeah, Frankenstein, he's basically the first zombie. So he can still die. He doesn't live forever. And if he's the classic Frankenstein where he has to walk with his arms outstretched and his legs don't bend and stuff, if you just push him over, you're probably going to be fine.
He's easy, yeah.
And Swamp Thing, just leave the swamp. What's the big fucking deal?
Yeah, exactly. Don't go in there.
No, it wasn't Swamp Thing.
Creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah. Swamp Thing's the DC Comics character.
And he goes anywhere.
He's friendly,
awesome. Yeah, he's great.
As long as you're not hurting plants, he's pretty cool with you.
Yeah.
And even then, it's on a large scale. I don't think he would. If you stomped on some grass, I think he'd leave you alone.
Probably.
But I want to correct myself. It was Christopher Lee was the monster in that for the first movie of that series, and then Peter Cushing was Dr. Frankenstein, across the series of movies. I think.
Oh, cool.
The monster is only in the first movie, and then every other movie is him making a different monster.
Yeah, because they would have been Bride of Frankenstein would have been in there too, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen them. I know like is quite different from the books. Like he's more of a villain, Dr. Frankenstein.
Interesting.
It's more of like what's the movie, Reanimator.
Oh,
where
my God.
you know, like there's this rogue mad scientist character
Yeah.
who's kind of roaming around causing trouble.
That movie's great.
Yeah,
That movie's fucking
saw Reanimator 1 like a year ago for the first time. It was so good. I
It's
loved
done.
it.
Yeah, it's done really well.
Loved
It's
it.
great. So yeah, I mean, I did enjoy the movie. I mean, for final thoughts, I would say watch the first half. It's super entertaining.
Yeah, I think the McAvoy Radcliffe duo is fun enough that it's worth watching. And like you, I would see another one probably just for the two of them together.
Yeah.
I would probably rather just see a different movie with
Yeah.
the pair of them. No, they were really fun. McAvoy especially, I think it's almost worth watching just to watch him as Victor Frankenstein.
I agree. I think having the two of them could easily do, according to Timothy, lethal weapon comedy buddy cop movie.
There you go, exactly.
I have to think about that. There's not a lot of funny scenes in that movie, right? I don't think so. I'm not positive, but
There's a lot of suicide and
yeah, and a lot of like Mel Gibson like breaking his shoulders to get out of fucking. Oh my god, the movie's just whatever. So yeah, I mean the first half's really good. Basically up until when they kill, even to the point when they're past drawing the Vitruvian man that they have to create. I think it's fine because watching the drawing and watching like the kind of funny parts where they're like drunk and stuff is pretty entertaining. Anything past that, it's pretty cut and dry at that point in time for me.
It feels like the movie should have ended when the cop comes and confronts them in the basement.
Yeah.
Like that feels like the climax of the movie, even though like it's maybe like an hour and 15 minutes into the movie. It feels like the natural resolution of the story. Like when the cop shows up at the end, he feels totally superfluous. Like we already have this other villain in the the rich guy,
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like it would have been nice if they had pushed the actual making of the monster to another movie. But I also totally get like doing something like this. You're definitely not guaranteed to get that second movie. So try to make one good movie. I don't think they necessarily came together with that. I think I would only recommend this if you were like a big Frankenstein fan.
Yeah, if you're a Universal Monsters like completionist type thing.
Exactly. Because it's fine, but I just don't think there's that much. There's not enough to pull you in at the end of the day, other than McAvoy.
Yeah,
But I think it's kind of a long movie to watch just for one performance.
yeah, and even like Radcliffe does well, but he's not of the McAvoy caliber.
And he's the straight man, really. Like he isn't given the meaty scenes that McAvoy is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably all that I've got for this movie. But I mean, we talked about it. We didn't even branch off all that much.
I think we did, got every last drop out of Victor Frankenstein. Like.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, if you're not a big Universal Monsters fan, you can probably skip over it. But if you enjoy the movies, or if you love James McAvoy more than any other actor, you could probably get along watching it. It's probably okay. Yeah, that's really it. So I guess with that, we will sign off. Any final thoughts?
Fire bad.
Fire is bad. Thanks very much, guys, and you have yourselves a nice day.